Hey guys, Weep here. Welcome back to another video by Varietymmos. Today's video is going to cover a complete gear guide. The gear guide is going to cover gear, stats, and gems, and it's going to cover gear all the way from white to green gear that you first obtain when you enter the game. It's going to give you advice on what tiers to go up to and when. And I'm going to give 3 late game gear guides, a cheap one, a medium priced one, and a really high priced build to help you decide which way to go. There is something important to note, that there is a lot of variables and not all of these builds will fit every class perfectly, because different class may need mana where another class may not. However, the general gear guide will definitely cover and give you a general idea of what you are aiming to achieve. First up, let's talk about the gear that you acquire while questing. So the first time that you're questing, you're probably going to look at your gear and you're going to have all of white, maybe green, and perhaps some blue. So the general rule of thumb here is you want to basically try to get a full set before you move on. For example, you want to get a full white set before you go to a green set, but it's okay if you have a full white set and say green weapons. Then you want majority green before you go to blue. You don't want, say, 3 blue pieces and 5 white pieces. That doesn't necessarily work. Now, while you're questing, you cannot acquire purple gear or use it until, I believe, roughly level 30 somewhere. So if you get a level purple gear and you can't wear it, just hold on to it until later. So a question I get asked a lot is, hey, I have 4 blue gear, can I jump straight to yellow? Short answer is no. If this is the first time that you're playing a character on the account, you are locked by your Black Spirit. Your Black Spirit has to get to level 5, and he'll do that in the level 40s, so it's actually quite a while before you can wear yellow or orange gear. Another question that people commonly ask is, can I pull items from the gear store despite the fact I'm not level 5? Yes, you can. There's no point saving your coins, and there's no special method of doing it. Use your coins whenever you get them. So if we go back into the inventory, the general rule of thumb that I like to follow is that, let's assume that this full set is blue, then I go for the purple main hand, purple offhand, and then work my way down. So the general rule is just top left, top right, and move your way down. And you want to try to get your full set to be the same color, and always start with the weapons because they give you attack damage, which is more important than defense damage. So when you have acquired your full purple set, you're going to want to try to get some cheap yellows, which on any server should be relatively cheap. Please note that the server cost will be different from server to server. I have seen the fact that, for example, Varietymmos on one server is like 4 million and like 12 million on the other. So when you go to check out these pieces of gear, please do check the prices before you start buying. Okay, let's talk about the 3 sets of gear. Please note that the rest of this guide is going to get a little bit complicated, so brand new players might not fully understand what I'm talking about. I will try to keep it as simple as possible, but there's many variables and it's very, very hard to recommend one set of gear to people for different stages of the game. So let's have a look at our Google Doc. So in here we have our cheap set. So the weapons that I recommend are both 2 slots. Now these are a little bit more expensive, and I guess you can kind of get away with a 1-slotted weapon if you really want to, but you're going to be sitting on these weapons for quite a while, so I do recommend getting the good ones if you can. For example, the Varietymmos here, it has a lot of attack power, nice crit chance, and double slots, and it's only worth 4 million. So if you have a ranger, I would definitely buy this. However, if it's on your server, say like 15 million, maybe not. And the sub weapon on my server, if you go to dagger and scroll down, is 12 million. So the dagger is actually significantly more. So if you really don't have the funds, I guess you could get another one of these other daggers. Probably either one of these work. Attack speed is a little bit harder to get than move speed, but 5% crit chance is better than 3% movement speed. So you're going to want to go the Hassus dagger, I believe, or the Alicia dagger. So now that we've decided on our 2 base weapons for the build, let's have a look at the rest. So the rest I would suggest Dobart / Gruntle. So Dobart will be cheaper than Gruntle, and it'll have a BP that's almost as high as Gruntle. However, its stats won't be amazing. The reason I say Dobart Helmet is because the helmet has a bit of crit, which is easy to get anyway, so sacrificing that is okay. The body only has mana and not much of it, so it doesn't matter if it's not Gruntle. The only thing you're missing is the socket basically, and like 2 power. If you have the money to go for Gruntle, of course it's best to go for Gruntle. I suggest a Tails and Dobart Hands and Feet. The reason I suggest this is because it's a mix of okay stats without crippling you, and it has high DP. Remember, this is the cheap build and for people who can't afford Gruntle. If you go to your marketplace and see that Gruntle is not that much more, it is definitely suggested to go for Gruntle. Okay, so for the accessories, you're going to want to go for a full set of blues that look like this. So this is the full set of blues. You can acquire a lot of these from buying off the market or running alt characters through the questline and just getting them. They do give a lot of stats, and the most important thing about the blues is that they're easy to get and they all have crit and attack speed on them. So if you have armor that doesn't necessarily have great stats on it, like this one for example, or perhaps minus movement speed here, or not great stats here, the jewelry will make up for it and still basically help you reach your cap over here. So you can see I'm at my cap and my gear doesn't have good stats on it, but it has a really high base battle power. Okay, so if we go back to the dock, for this build, if you can get 2 slot yellows, it's okay to do that, but I definitely wouldn't go with the 1 slot if you can help it. The idea of this build is to keep 30% crit rate and 20% attack speed while maxing PP, which I just mentioned. Now, as you can see here, the gems that you're going to want to fuse into your spare slots are purple 7 attack gems. These can be made from boxes inside your mana at the alchemy store. So you're going to have a couple of sockets, make sure you put them in there, and it'll help you boost your BP to the point that you can farm, say, something like witches to get the money for full Gruntle. Okay, let's have a look at our second piece of gear. So if we open up the Google Doc again. Okay, so this is the medium price build. So in here, I've put the highest BP orange 1 slot and the highest CP crit speed 1 slot on your weapons. So for example, that would be these ones here. So I have a Shamir bow. It's much cheaper than the Liberto. It's like hundreds of millions cheaper. And at level 35, this Shamir bow will have plus 35 battle power over Liberto Yellow. So it is much more expensive. However, getting like an extra plus 35 of both is like plus an extra 70 battle power. So if you can afford them, it's definitely worth going for them. But for this build in general, you're probably not going to be able to afford these. So get the full yellow like it suggests in here. So you're going to want to get full Gruntle. You're going to want to put all purple attack stones all throughout all your Gruntle and boost your attack power as much as you possibly can. This is not going to give you the same battle power as someone in full orange. However, it will give you enough battle power to easily reach 3500, which is enough to farm any zone efficiently to obtain your silver for the full orange. As with the previous build, I do recommend that you run full blues, attack speed and crit. With the Gruntle set, you may find that you're a little bit over on the crit or the attack speed, but that's if you're running the Liberto and the 2 slot yellows. If you're running the 1 slot oranges, like I'm suggesting here, you'll sacrifice some stats and it should overall be about close to the limit. At this point, you should have enough purple 7s in all your Gruntle gear to stop obtaining them, and you're going to want to go for upgraded gems like yellow attack speed or yellow crit rate. So keep getting gems and keep fusing them together once you've used them all, and hold them for the next step. If you are definitely having some issues with the crit and attack speed, just swap out the Gruntle helmet for something else, something cheaper, and you will lose a lot of stats. Next up, let's have a look at the high value build. So this build is going to be a lot more complicated, but let's have a look. So when I say high cost, I'm not going to talk about stuff that is, 700 million silver, because none of us can afford that. So as with the other build above, instead of yellows or potentially orange 1 slots, I would recommend 100% getting the orange 1 slots here for the extra potential 75 battle power at plus 35. I would also recommend getting Shamir. Now the reason I recommend getting Shamir is that if you open up the market and go to, for example, armor, and go to a helmet, go down to orange Shamir, you'll note that the Shamir has minus crit chance, but it has 45 defense power. It's actually pretty good compared to against the Gruntl's, only minus 10. You can go for something else as well, like Tatara's helmet, which gives 48. However, the cost on this is very high. So if you kind of got more money than yellow and you want to go towards orange, I think Shamir is a good set if you have blue accessories. However, if you got like a lot of money, you can go for something like Zareth or Tataris if you wish. In here, we're going to go for Shamir. We're going to go for the Colossus hands, and we're going to go for the Shamir feet. Again, this is a high cost build, but not a build that's so far out of the way that you'll simply be unable to obtain it. If you have more money, feel free to go for the more powerful options. So this build is a combination of the highest attack power from weapons, which is the 1 slot oranges, lowered stats through Shamir, but it has a high battle power. Stick to blue / purple accessories as they both give crit / speed. So you'll notice here that I've recommended blues, purples, and yellows. So something that's very important here, as you move into yellow accessories, you'll find it hard to cap your crit and attack speed. The reason I say this is because if you go into the market and go down to accessories, and go down to yellows for example, so if you have a look at the yellow accessories, this has attack speed, this has crit chance, this has crit chance, this has attack speed. So as you may be noticing, there's no yellows that have both crit chance and attack speed on them. So when you get to this point, it's very hard to acquire all of your stats. So in here, what I recommend is, because this build here with the 1 slot oranges and going for the maximum BP is sacrificing a lot of stats in the terms of attack speed and crit rate, I would suggest sticking to blues and purples until you start getting oranges that don't have bad stats. You know, the items that cost 100 million each. This build is definitely a step up from this build when it comes to battle power, but it does struggle if you try to move into yellow accessories. So as I mentioned earlier, by now you should have all purple plus 7 attacks. You're going to be fusing these to acquire yellow gems. These yellow gems are going to provide the crit rate and the attack speed that you're going to put into your sockets to make up the difference. This build is mainly focused on somebody farming silver and not whaling. If you're whaling, you're able to go straight through these and go for the higher oranges at 100 million each, and then go for the yellow anyway. For the cheaper or slower or free-to-play players, I'd recommend this build because it has high BP, and try to stay away from the yellows because they cost way too many black pearls and because of the stat difference. Once you've acquired a bunch of yellow gems, add up all the yellow gems, attack speed and crit rate, and then add up all of your armor, and then make sure you cap out. Then feel free to move to yellows. Before then, absolutely do not move to yellow accessories for any reason until you have every stat that you need, because you can hit a wall and mess up your build quite badly if you have something like 10% attack speed. Okay, that covers the 3 general guides for your gear. Please do check your marketplace. Make sure the prices are about the similar, because they can change quite a bit, or you may be able to get a much more expensive piece for much cheaper. That is the highest build that I would recommend for the average person. The next build pretty much over the high cost would be like 2 slots oranges and 2 slots oranges across the other thing. Please note that not all of this orange gear here is 1 socketed. You can get 2 socketed oranges for like 100 mil, but even at that price for a general 2 socket build, it's probably going to cost you like 600 million silver. So the longer that you can stay on this build here and farm things like witches or the iron mine to obtain silver, the oranges will keep coming down in price, and it'll make this build easier to obtain. Same with the yellow accessories. Over time, people are buying and selling them, so it's bringing down the price of yellow accessories. And in the meantime, you're saving up your black pearls. So when you do finally have a decent orange build, you're going to then use all your black pearls to buy a full set of yellows outright.